Parallel and perpendicular lines. Made easy. Let's start by going over parallel lines. Parallel lines will never intersect or touch each other, even if the lines keep growing. Let's take a look at these lines. We have two lines here, line AB and line CD. As we can see, these lines will never intersect or touch each other. That means they are parallel lines. The way that we write that two lines are parallel to each other is with this notation. We see that point A and B make a line. This symbol here represents that the lines are parallel, and we see that C and D make a line. One thing to note, since our lines have arrows, that means the lines will continue to grow. When that is the case, our notation must also have arrows as well. Let's go over some examples. Are these lines parallel? We can see here that the lines, even if they continue to grow, will never intersect or touch each other. When that is the case, that means the lines are parallel. Let's look at this next example. Right now, the lines are not touching. Does this mean they are parallel? What happens if the line continues to grow? If the lines keep growing, we can see that they will intersect. Since the lines intersect, that means they are not parallel. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are lines that will always intersect and they form a square corner. Let's take a look at these lines. We have two lines here. We have line AB and line CD. As we can see, these lines intersect each other and they form a square corner. That means they are perpendicular lines. The way that we write that two lines are perpendicular to each other is with this notation. We see that point A and B make a line. This symbol here represents that the lines are perpendicular, and we see that C and D make a line. One thing to note, since our lines do not have arrows, our notation will include lines without arrows as well. Let's look at this example. What I want to do is I want to draw a line that's perpendicular to this line AB. What we know about perpendicular lines is that a perpendicular line, they must intersect and also they must have a square corner. So since it must have a square corner, what I can do is I can draw a square on top of this line here. Now, I just draw a line that's going to be going through one of the sides. So I can draw a line like that. And now I know that these two lines are perpendicular to each other because they intersect and there's a square corner. Let's go ahead and draw another one. I'm going to draw a square, and then I'm going to draw a line that goes through it, like that. So as you can see, you can continue to do as many lines as you want. Here's another example. We want to find out which lines are parallel and which lines are perpendicular. Let's start with parallel lines first. What we want to do is look at all of the lines and ask ourselves which lines, if they continue to grow, will not intersect or cross each other. Out of all of these lines, only two of them, if they continue to grow, will never cross. Those lines are line BC and line DE, shown here. Now, let's look at what lines are perpendicular to each other. We can draw squares at each intersection to help visualize this. Whenever a square does not perfectly fit at an intersection, this means the lines are not perpendicular. Looking at our figure, we can see that the squares at the intersection of lines AB to BC, DE to EF, and EF to FA do not fit perfectly. That means these lines are not perpendicular. Now, if we look at the squares at the intersections of lines BC to CD, CD to DE, and FA to AB, the squares fit perfectly. That means these lines are perpendicular.